everybody, take a deep breath in, out, in, out. A really big part of why I started this, to recap for those who might have just hopped on and is joining me now, I fried my brain a really long time ago, and before that I was always a very spiritually in tuned human being, a child, and walked with the wind and walked with spirit. And to be thrown into something so outer-worldly as a teenager and young adult, I feel like it's my duty to speak out about the experiences that I've had in order for other people to feel less alone about maybe the intensity of what they've experienced, because mine is solely brain-based. And when you come from a life where you've been quite blessed physically and you seemingly have a normal life, there can be a lot that goes on the inside, and people don't really take that seriously enough and let it kind of bubble up. And then as adults, if you don't have it all together, like, that's when the judgment starts coming, and people are like, well, you really never had it together, and you know, we've seen this coming, but why are we not stopping that previous to? So when I see the signs in myself that I'm becoming overwhelmed, or that a job isn't suiting me, or that a lifestyle is becoming outgrown, I need to take charge of my life and take things into my own hands. And I care so much about the people that I look up to, even if, you know, they make their mistakes and, you know, get down on themselves. There's always something that you can kind of pull out and, you know, remember that, you know, maybe you're really good at poetry, or you're a good listener, or you're really awesome with animals. You don't have to be all the things that, you know, the labels that get put on you. You're still just you with a name and a face. But when I go into clinics and I have to go to a new doctor and do the spiel about what's been going on in my life and where I'm at now and where I see myself in the future and how can we bridge some gaps, I always lay it out for them, and then they lay it out for me. And at the very end of it, I always get the big fat label of, we think this girl might be schizophrenic. And that getting added on to already what I deal with in day-to-day everything, it can become super overwhelming to even consider myself a normal person at all, in the way that I interact with my family, or when I try and get a job or offer my skills to other people. It really hinders my confidence, I guess, because I know who I am and I know what I am. But if you get yourself in the system, there's a lot of people that will try and tell you what they think you are, and express what is best for you at the time if you don't have people behind you kind of rooting for you and explaining you know, who that person really is. And that's why support is so needed, is that if you have a family member that you're trying to care for, or maybe a friend, that you're not just going based on what you see, but based on the history of what you know and what they've grown up with, and try and reach from different angles. Because if you're sending someone information that isn't serving them, or if it's, just kind of irrelevant to their growth or to their healing maybe, it might set them back a little bit. So I wanted to bring in more of the conversation about the first time that I visited the psych ward. Not that it's new information, but it is a perspective that I feel very strongly people need to be aware of, because these are the places that your kids end up. These are the places that your family members go to, and nobody talks about them because they seem very taboo. And I know in my family, they just didn't want me to appear any different than somebody else, but truth is I'm very different, and I wouldn't want to scare anyone or try to be somebody that I'm not and have, the little gremlin inside kind of pop up on them when they're least expecting it. But it can be very serious, going into facilities and getting treatment. You don't always know if you're making the right choice, especially if you're in a weird frame of mind and they're trusting you to sign papers and put your name on things that you don't 100% know the full detail of, and suddenly you've signed your life away. And the people in there also are just normal people. They're like you and me. They've got their own issues and tools to deal. The advantage is they've got a lot more practice than you. The disadvantage is they've seen a lot more, and they're less willing to put up with somebody who's kind of new or is, pretty scared, because they've just seen it before, and they'll push you down the line. It's hard to even know where to begin, because so much goes on and so much happens. But I really wanted to bring in the good parts, because as an awake person, as an aware person, I know that I can make a difference anywhere that I go. I've been told that my whole life. I believe that. I believe in myself, and I believe in people like you who are watching this and, who want to make a difference in your life so you can be better for other people, and that we can make this whole world go around. Because when I first got in there, I knew what I was in there for, and I was completely aware and awake and telling them the honest truth that I needed a timeout and that I was unraveling and I just needed a timeout. I needed somewhere safe to go. So the first time that I went in there, I was in my right frame of mind. And if you watched, a video before this, and then I think, the one before that, I talk about how kind of insane I can get. But for the most part, I'm going in there with a very clear mind, and that's the part that they struggle with, that they think that I'm tricking them, or they think that I'm acting, and they'll monitor that quite closely. So when I'm in, on good terms with myself and in my mind, body, and soul, and I have a plan and I know what I'm doing and I'm going in there for a specific reason, it's completely different than when I've been taken there by force, by authority, and all rights revoked. Especially since the first time this happened, that was the period where I had signed, a piece of paper, and then basically any time after that I'm getting in trouble, they can easily drag me back to square one. So that's a scary feeling. That's one of the main reasons why people don't get help. They don't even want their name anywhere near that, and for good reason. But I was at a point where I, knew the system, knew what was going to happen. I was going in there with an open mind and not blind. So that's one thing, is that I'm educated. A lot of these people, a lot of these kids that get brought in, like, they're just there to get in, get their free drugs, and get out. But I was there with a mission, because I knew that I was okay, and I just needed to take a time out of, what my reality was and try and put some pieces together. So while I was in there, I immediately took notice to who was around me, to my position in the facility. I was placed in a room at the very far back. There was actually butterflies on my door, which was really cool because I love some butterflies. And I was put there, and that was fine, but there was some stuff going on behind the scenes, and nobody wanted to fess up about it. So I did, and I said, I think that somebody is being assaulted under everyone's nose, and you guys don't seem to see it as blatantly clear as I do, but I want a different room. I don't feel safe behind, like, I need to be in front of the nurse's desk. So I was moved in with my roommate. Love her to pieces. If she's watching this, sometimes she does. She says it calms her, because I swear that girl calmed me. And it took a minute for us to get used to each other. And my dad had sent a care package in there, and my first thought was, wow, okay, biggest target ever. So I started just giving away all my stuff, because nobody had anything in there. They have a TV and some recreational stuff, and a bunch of books, but no real help. Like, there's no one running, therapy groups or anything. It's just a bunch of people medicated, and it's hard to talk about. It actually is. When I can see it, and I can see, like, the ghostiness wandering around, and, like, the bars on the fucking windows, and, like, no sun, like, it really stresses me out. Because I know people have been in there for months, and they don't get out, and, like, they don't get out if they're on their, if they're not on their best behavior. So it does seem like you're acting when you're in there. But anyway, I was giving my things away, so people started to know me around the floor, but I stayed very quiet and to myself, and the first day, because I just didn't want to freak anyone out. But then people kept coming up to me, and I had this one experience with a woman who had lost one leg, and everyone called her Mama, and she had the most beautiful blue eyes. And I walked out into the basketball court just kind of dazed, looking around, and she walked right up to me, and she's like, looking at you is like looking into a mirror. And I just was so thankful to be there in that specific moment. Whether she really seen something in me or she was just saying it, but that woman was full of Jesus and told me every day she gets high on life. I think she was a previous meth addict before. But so sweet, and just trying to make the best of the situation that we were in, and we had food and a roof, and what else do we need? And it takes a special person to, see that as a gift, I guess, because the rest of the time she really looked out for me, and just said, like, hey. And then she would get real quiet and then wouldn't talk to anyone. But every time she'd seen me, she would perk right up and hey. And anytime she'd seen somebody that she was close with, she'd just give a high five. And now I'm rambling about it, but to give the scene, like, she was such a warm individual. And other people just write beings like that off so quickly. So that was one thing. So once I started getting comfortable and I settled in with my roommate, she really just kind of watched over me, and she took notice to the things that I was seeing as well, and we just kind of watched out for each other. And within that time, I met a couple people that really had a darkness about them, and were truly just lost and scared on the inside, and just allowing whatever was happening to happen. And those are the people that I connected to the most, and that we just talked and allowed each other to open up and be. And all through, up until we were supposed to go to bed, just sharing stories. And there was one guy that sat, and he was a way older guy, and there was lots of rumors about him, but he pointed to my tattoo and he said, a butterfly saved my life one day. I was like, oh yeah, Jimmy? He's like, yeah. I was laying on a beach in the sun and I fell asleep for probably 2 hours, and just a little butterfly landed on my chest. I was like, oh yeah? He's like, I woke right up. And I don't know why, but those interactions make things so worthwhile. And when people talk harshly about psych units or psych wards or, that, it's not the people, it's not the patients, it's the situation, and it's the way that we're being treated, and it's the doctors. And even this one woman, she was also addicted to meth. She always wore all of her makeup and all of her jewelry, and she found out that I had done my hairdressing license. I have my hairdressing license, and she got me to shave her head into a mohawk, and she gave me the buzzer and let me do that for her. And later on, I actually gave her a pair of my slippers, and just seen that her feet were all cracked, and my mom does massage, so I'm pretty used to doing that. And I said, would you like to sit down and I can just massage your feet for you for a little bit? She's probably in her mid-50s or so, but I gave her one of my books, my color theory books, and she sat down and read it to herself, and I massaged her feet for a while and gave her my slippers and let her keep the book. And she really she didn't need to say much, but I knew that it meant a lot to her. And those little kind of things happened throughout the whole experience that I was there, where everyone that I would meet, I would find some way to connect with them, or just something simple to say, because I knew that while I was in there, nobody knows me for real on the outside, and I can be the very, very best version of myself, as best as I can possibly be. And if I embarrass myself, whatever, I'm out of here in, a while. But there was this other kid, and he had this anxiety about him, this energy, and when we were finished with the occupational therapist, who just, love her, but sits and watches us and monitors us, she allowed us to stay back, and I taught this kid chair yoga, and it was so simple. I just said, gather the energy, feel the ball. You can do it with me right now. Feel the ball, and gather. Okay, you've got it. Okay, hold it, and bring it to the side, and feel the energy, and bring it to the other side. Feel this energy, bring it up high, and bring it down low and through the legs like a basketball, and then pick it up on one hand and pass it. And then once you have all that energy, just like an egg, crack it all over you. Take a deep breath in. Deep breath out. Shake it out. Something to that effect. Just a quick one. And the occupational therapist was stunned. She was like, I've never seen anyone do that before, but that was really amazing. And I was like, I don't know, just my life. But that kid walked out of there just like so alleviated from what he was feeling. And if you watched my video before when I was in the holding room and I was expressing how upset I was at the lady who would make us go back to our room, but the guy who was like like everywhere, and I made him go into like a big star shape. Like, those are the little tools that you can give to people that they just wouldn't think of. Like, I didn't learn it in school. I was taught some of it from my mom, but for the most part I was looking on my own how to regulate myself and how to take care of myself. So this is just me sharing it with you, helping you cut some corners a little bit. But that was a really special moment for me, to have something that I do just for fun, have it be recognized by someone, and for a good thing. And I would always just walk around and take a lap at anyone that I see, and I'd be like, "Are you doing okay?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "No, you're not. We're both in here." And just to that effect, and try and make someone smile, but not force them to try to pretend to be happy. That's the difference, I think, between, just being there for someone and expecting anything. I always try and go in with no expectations, because, I don't know, you never know what could happen. And I didn't want to make this video too long. I had a headache, and I haven't been able to just share thoughts or talk, but I've had some really awesome conversations in the last little bit, and reconnected with some people that I care about, and to know that they've gone through similar, if not worse in some cases, experiences, and the intensity, we can share that. It's sacred. It's a sacred connection. Nobody can touch that, especially people who, really have an awake and sweet and soft spirit, as we're all born with. And if you can keep that as you're grown, it's a really important thing. But yeah, I just wanted to do a check-in and just share a little bit of good light. I don't always know what these are going to roll out as we know. And sometimes I'm just talking to myself, and I'll delete the whole thing and I won't like it. But sometimes I feel something, and I know that even if you just watch a little bit of it, something might strike a chord, and that's all I can hope for, is that I share a little bit of perspective and it helps in some way. But yeah, I really left that experience alleviated. It gave me a lot of hope that just a simple random person can make the world of a difference if you just try. And by trying, that's showing up for yourself so you can show up for others. So this weekend I'm taking myself to my very first ever yoga class. Never done a yoga class, and never felt the need to pay for somebody to do this, but I'm trying to be social, trying to get out there. So Sunday morning cozy flow, I'm coming for you. And I just wish everyone a really peaceful, happy day. And I hope that you find some good in yours and you can share it with others. And if you ever, think you're not doing the most, just know that it's all going to add up to something. And maybe you won't think of it right in the moment, but, a year later you might be looking back thinking that that was one of the best experiences that I could have received. So, yeah. Anyway, happy Friday. I even post this on Friday. But yeah, have a wonderful day. Bye.